So how do you do it? How do you do it right? How do you do this to make sure it fits what you're looking for? That's the biggest thing in video is everyone's got a goal. We all have communication needs. We all have messages. We all have behavior we want to see. So how do we make sure all the money we put in or all the time we invest is really going to work? How do we make sure we do something that's right? Well, I would first say there's a great company called EFX Media, located right. No, but a lot of times this also involves decisions of how much work do you do yourself? How much work can you do yourself? Is this internal produced or is this going to be externally produced? And that can also be shared along the way. And then how do you make sure that what you want is what you get? Because the process takes so many stages that sometimes the message gets muddled along the way. The biggest thing you guys all have, we all have this, no matter what field you are, you want this to be effective and you want this to be efficient. What does that mean? You want the message to work and you want the message to fit within your budget. I don't care what it is, that's the mandate. I just want to make sure I see changes and you only spend this much. So the idea to do that, though, really comes at the very, very beginning. This is a part that anyone in my field kind of cringes at in two ways. The sales folks love it. They love it when a client is off message because changes mean more work. The guys in the production end pull their hair out because changes mean change of direction and different plans. And we were going one way and going another. The biggest thing I would say is right when you start, right when you know you're going to put something together, identify exactly who you want to talk to. Who are you reaching? Who is your exact audience? Please understand, these are the people we need to target. We need this behavioral change or we need to get this message to them. And then identify your results. When I ask the question, why do I care? The question you should think about when you're putting together your message. A second question I ask is, once the video is done, once the video is finished playing, once you're done and complete and your employees are finished and the screen goes black, what do you want? What do you want them to think? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? What's that behavior? What is your result? So the questions are, who are you looking to target and what do you want at the end? So identifying that right from the beginning of your audience and then your result. And so that is where you start from. You're at that senior level of communications. You've got your message. You've got your target, you've got your message. You are probably not going to be involved every step of the way. You've got a team, or you've got other people that you're putting this in front of, or you've got plenty of other things on your plate that you need to do. So when you do know what your message is, gather everyone that you're going to be working with right up front and identify to them what your goals are, who you are targeting, and what that result are. Put them on that schedule. Get everyone on that same page. Because if everyone is working from the same piece of information, whether they're vendors, whether they're your junior staff, if everyone understands what the goals are, then everyone will hopefully move in lockstep. And that way you're able to let your team do what you've hired them to do, and then you are able to concentrate on other things along the way. Because if you're doing this with a product launch or you're doing this for an all-hands meeting, there are plenty of other things that you have to involve yourself in. So letting this path take its place, understanding that you're on the right message, and stick to the plan. I've seen a number of times where the junior staff is either under a different idea or the vendor is under a different idea than the message that's sent, and we start moving. We start producing. We start putting together things on schedule. And then our main client, that senior level communicator, comes in and says, okay, what do I have? They take a look at it and go, that's great. That's not what I want. Then we're off message. Adhering to that objective is most important so your team understands all along the way. Doesn't mean day to day you need to look and review that video, but you need to be updated just to make sure. So it just involves a level of communication. And I know, I'm talking to communicators about how to communicate, yet in the back of all of our minds, we're like, yeah, we work in communications, but we could always communicate a little bit better. The idea is just to stay on path. And especially realize this one thing. Your audience most likely watches this video once. Through your review process and through your scripting process and your plans, you've lived this project. You're ingrained with this. We've had extra time where we've spent budgeting and editing for days and extra days based on the fact that I don't like that guy just because he looks like he's cross-eyed. Or do we have somebody wearing a different shirt? Or it just doesn't really look right because the building's not really the buildings that are on our campus. Okay, we'll make those changes, that's fine. But is your audience really going to get the message based on the guy having a different colored blue shirt? Stay on point. Your audience only watches this once, most likely. So once they watch it, if you stay on objective and make that message clear, that's the goal. Because once the screen goes black and they're done watching, they're not going to care about the blue shirt as long as they get the message. You know, another good reason that I will say for a transcript, because when they come back and say, oh, was there a specific policy? Yeah, they can watch it again if they want to. But if they walk away with that feeling of, I've got to do this differently, or this is going to help me, or here's a reason why I should be, you know, doing something different, there's a motivational factor for me, you know, that's the goal. The goal is to change the behavior, not to remember the guy who may have looked a little cross-eyed. And so in doing that, what you're also doing is staying efficient. You're not wasting editing hours. Many times you will be charged by the hour, or you're putting together another shoot. And even if you're doing your production internally, you're not worrying about spending money for a vendor. There's probably overtime involved for your staff, or there's other projects that your staff has to do, or you are dealing with employees that may or may not be gruntled. You know? And so staying clear to your own message. We get involved in the weeds so much, and you start paying attention to those little details, but your audience doesn't always see those details. So it's almost watching with a clear palette, watching with a clear slate, and watch and say, okay, I'm going to watch this as if no one's ever seen it before, because your audience has never seen this before. So it's a big, big, big point in terms of staying on message. And I can't accentuate it enough because it's one of the big sticklers in terms of what costs projects more money, goes over budget, doesn't make deadlines.